Franchising brand stories. I hope you're all well and you've had a lovely week in franchising. I've had a good week so far. It hasn't been bad. What is the show all about? Franchising brand stories. We interview and get to hear the story behind some of the UK's top franchising brands. We get under the hat, as it were. Do you like that? It's good, isn't it? Really, we want people who are interested in different brands to understand what's behind the brands and the people, because it's a really important message to get out there. So that's the show. We have a different guest and we have a different brand story every Thursday. It's Thursday at 5:15 GMT. How long does it go on for? About 50 minutes, somewhere around that sort of time. And what we do is we separate out the story into 3 chapters. The first one being, where are we at now? Then we go right back to the beginning, and then we look at the future. The format is a live format. So whatever platform you're listening to this, if you are listening to it on the 18th of April at 5:15, you can comment live. And we have a few people here already. So I encourage you to get involved, but particularly during the middle section. So during chapter 2, where we talk about where things all began, that's really where you can ask some questions and we can really start to get under the hat. I'm going to keep saying that. It's a good expression I've got. So today, the brand story that we are going to hear is Diddi Dance with the wonderful Anne-Marie. And I know that you all know Anne-Marie. But before I hand things over to Anne-Marie to do a little introduction, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the brand. And I'm going to read this. Discover how an accomplished dancer performing with the likes of Bryan Adams, and I need to ask you about that, used her talent for dancing and passion for teaching to build a highly successful franchise business. Anne-Marie, founder of Diddi Dance, is a popular and ever-present member of the UK franchise community. Seen and heard at all the key events and offering inspiring other attendees to join an impromptu shaking of the hoof on one of her fantastic TikTok videos. Leading from the front and a passionate supporter of good, ethical franchising, Anne-Marie's mantra to her franchisees is, everything I do it for you. Going back to Bryan Adams there. So Anne-Marie, I'd like to start with chapter 1. So what is Diddi Dance and where are you now?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Harvey. So Diddi Dance are preschool dance classes for babies and toddlers. We've been going 21 years and we currently have 40 franchisees across the UK from Sunderland down to Plymouth. So there's classes, parties, send sessions, and we go into early years settings as well. And we also have a range of merchandise. So franchisees come on board, get their exclusive territory and offer all of those services in their own exclusive area.
Fantastic. That's a lovely introduction. Thank you for that. It's great to have a few people here. I'm whizzing your names up on the screen as we start to get into this wonderful brand story. So just in case you've just joined us, we are speaking with Anne-Marie Martin of Diddi Dance, and we're about to hear her brand story, and we're going to get into the main part of the show, which is going to be chapter 2. I just wanted to say that that's the part that if you've got any specific questions that you'd like to ask about the story, then please put those up on the screen and we'll endeavour to get to those as part of that middle section. The other thing I was going to say is if you scan the QR code, look at me getting all modern about things, but if you scan the QR code that is in the top left of your screen, that will take you to the event page for next week when we are talking to the wonderful Samantha Acton of Domestic Angels. So that's going to be a good one. So please scan that and register for that next week's show. So it brings us really on, as I say, to the main part of the story, which is chapter 2. So Anne-Marie, I'd like now to take you right back to the beginning. Not quite as far as we took it back the other day, perhaps, where we talked about the origins of dance, but maybe we go that far. But how did things start, and what was your inspiration, and when and where did it all begin for you for Diddi Dance?
Well, I mean, if we go right back to the start, that's a long time ago.
Go there.
But basically, I'm really lucky that I started something as a really small child. I was about 2, 3. My mum took me along to the local dance school. I enjoyed it. We tried lots of different dance styles, and my mum said, right, pick one dance that you want to do. And I said, all of them. It transpired I was quite good at it, and so the dance teacher there signed me up a couple of extra classes a week, and it went from there. I then at school did, after my GCSEs, went on and did A-level dance, and then that led me on to actually go on and do a degree in dance. So I did my first year at London Contemporary Dance School, but unfortunately I broke my foot in a ballet class and was out for a while. Yeah. And a few factors, I then decided to audition and try and transfer up to the Northern School of Contemporary Dance in Leeds, which I did successfully. So when I graduated in 1997, I graduated with a first in my dance degree, and my dissertation was on dance movement therapy and dance in special educational needs and disabilities. So from that, I did want to be a professional dancer, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that. So I danced all around the world. I was in pop videos. I was in a dance company where we resided at the Royal Opera House for a year. Some amazing jobs that I got to perform on. But I'd always taught as well. So I'd always taught for various theatre schools, dance companies, dance schools, local ones, for older children and adults. And through that, I tried to keep as much teaching work as I could on in between my dancing jobs. But I did find myself, I tried some office work for a bit, and as lots of jobbing dancers will know, promotions work, handing out flyers, hospitality work. And I found myself during the week, sort of Monday to Friday during the day, after realizing that office jobs weren't for me, that I had all this time free. And so I started working for a play company in North London. And that is where I was first introduced to babies and toddlers. And I basically, I won't say got bullied into it, but a lot of the grown-ups there said to me, you're a dancer.
Encouraged.
Challenged to do it. This was back in 2003, so it was a long time ago. There weren't a lot of preschool activities out there then. So they said, look, we've tried the local dance school. It was a little bit formal, a little bit scary. They found it a bit disciplined, and they came out going, no, I don't want to do dancing. Well, that was my red rag to a bull, as it was. So I said, right, I don't want a child's first experience of a dance class to come across like that. But they literally booked a venue, told me to turn up, and I went, okay, what do I do with all these toddlers? So we started just with sort of 2 to 4 year olds, and I just tried to develop, this was the day of like steps and the tweenies and S Club 7. So I got my PRS license, and I used all the cheesy pop music, which was great. I sort of brought in a few props and hula hoops, and I was finding that the repetition of what we were doing was really, they're like little sponges, and it was all going in, and they were coming back week after week, like remembering what they were doing. And it was just amazing to see. And then, over the years, we've then developed so much stuff, done so much extra training, worked with professionals and experts in early childhood development and child psychology. And we've really developed all of the lesson plans now into where we are at the moment. And also last year we launched our baby classes as well, because it wasn't ever something I really wanted to get into, because I really wanted it to be about, the name is Diddi Dance. I wanted it to do what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to take our time, work with the experts to figure out how we could make even a baby's class really movement based, because there are so many brilliant music classes out there for babies. I wanted us to be real movement and dance based, which I think we've done now.
Absolutely, yes. I'm now picturing a baby. Yeah, absolutely. I'm picturing a baby now dressed as John Travolta. Exactly.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly, before we start getting into a few questions, I just want to recognize that the fact that there are a few people with us here live today. It's good to see Tim Morris, Simon Wise, Julie Waits, Jane Mitchell, and one other, Tony Mazzero, I think is how it's pronounced, but it didn't come up there. I had to look there, you see. Multitasking. Great to have everyone here. It's really important for me that it's part of a community and that everyone gets involved. That's certainly something about dancing. People like to, to get involved in it. So feel free, please, to ask some questions. I'm going to start with asking you, if it's all right, why did you choose franchising to grow your business? So, you've spoken a lot about that inspiration, but why franchising?
Well, it was quite a gradual process. So I started these classes in North London. They proved to be very popular. As I say, there really weren't lots of other classes out there, not like there are nowadays. So I started these classes. They were filling up. I was opening more just in this one area of London. And I thought, okay, this seems popular. It seems like quite a unique concept. Let me test it in some other areas. So I was working for a big musical theatre company in southeast London. And so I thought, okay, I know quite a few of the parents there. Let me test it there. And then in East London. So I tested a few areas first. All seemed to be quite popular. And then I thought, do you know what? If I am going to expand this, I need to take myself out of the equation and figure out, is it the concept that's working or is it me that's working? And I think that's a really key point when you're going to scale your business. So I brought on a teacher in North London, and I sort of had loose lesson plans and trained her up in it was called Funky Feet back in the day, but trained her up in the Diddi Dance way back then. So she took some classes for me as well. And then when I realized that the concept was working, I then had heard, and I can't remember exactly where, I think because of the brands I was teaching for, I knew that they were a franchise. And so I'd heard about franchising and I looked into franchise opportunities. And then I just realized, well, actually, maybe I should franchise this myself. So I looked around for a consultant who, again, children's activities weren't really big on the franchising scene 21 years ago. Well, this was probably 18, 19 years ago then. And so I found a consultant that had worked with the franchise brand that I was teaching for. And he introduced me to, has now from day one been such a huge mentor of mine and an amazing franchise consultant, Clive Sawyer. I worked with him on franchising the business because I really did feel, because it was a unique concept, I wanted the ethos and the style of the brand to remain wherever it was. I'd heard about licensing, but I thought, do you know what? I think because we're working with young children here, I really want to make sure that the name that goes out there is really one of safety, trust, all of those things when you're working with young children. So I thought franchising would give me that I could really scale the business, but keep the integrity and the ethos of the brand, so that everything we were doing, customers were getting the same experience from Sunderland down to Plymouth, where we are now. And I think that's why franchising really resonated with me, so that and also the non-competing element. I think when you've got that exclusive territory, you build a network that is really supportive of each other and really encouraging, rather than stepping on anybody's toes to be cutthroat in business.
I love that. And thank you for answering that so beautifully. It was a great answer to that question. And I love the fact that you talked about support. It definitely, franchising in all sorts of different ways is full of a supportive community. I'm going to very quickly I'll quickly say hello to Kelly, my very good friend Kelly, who has a show on Tuesday called The Awesome Journey. But also I want to recognize a comment that Tim's put up here. Good to see you here, Tim. Tim's put, if you could do anything different at the beginning of your franchise journey, what would it be? It's really interesting that you said that you sought expert advice. It's such an important thing to do when you're laying those foundations. But if you could have tweaked anything at that stage, does anything come to mind? Good question, Tim.
Not even, well, yeah, I suppose it is relatable to franchising, but as I briefly mentioned, I'd started the classes called Funky Feet, and without looking, this was before the day of Facebook even. So, the internet was waiting till you got home in an evening and waiting for the dial-up to happen. And so
I remember that. The pictures used to come in like this, didn't they?
Oh yeah. And so I didn't think about Googling anything to do with that name, and then just thought, right, I've heard if I want to scale the business, I need to trademark it. So I spent money and bought the trademark for Funky Feet. And then when I did work with the franchise consultant, he was like, okay, so let's do a quick test that the name is nice and original, because franchisees want to buy into that original name and make sure that there aren't anybody else out there. Well, there was hundreds of classes for kids out there called Funky Feet. And so we were like, well, I thought it was the end of the world and the end of the business, and I would have to stop everything I was doing. And he sat me down, he went, we just need to change the name, Anne-Marie. Okay? I was like, okay, yeah, focus. Yeah, we're good. And luckily, the name is so much better now. And I like alliteration, and it literally just came to me like that. Well, okay.
Sometimes I do.
We should do more what it says on the tin. We dance, they're little, they're Diddy. And it was literally that quick. So we quickly then did the due diligence before spending money, checked the trademark. That was original. And we then trademarked that. And it wasn't hideous, because a few years later I managed to sell on that trademark, so it was absolutely fine. But I did almost spend a lot of money with another franchise consultant. It was a name I'd heard, and so I almost spent a lot of money. But luckily, after a few conversations, I did realize they probably weren't experienced in the children's activities sector, and so I think that was, again, due diligence and saving yourself wasting money.
Completely. I think due diligence is the word there. Whether you're looking as a franchisee or you're at that beginning journey as a franchisor. And Diddi Dance is a much better name than Funky Feet. Sounds like an athlete's foot cream, doesn't it?
Many shoe shops called it as well, and I was like, that's not
but no, that's a great answer, and thanks for your question there, Tim. I just want to quickly recognize the fact that we've got Jason Kaber here. Jason is from SEO Samba, and they sponsor the franchise show. So I will put their little logo up when I can work out how to do that. Great to have you, Jason. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I'm going to move on to a question here from Simon. This is a good one. What skills and experience do franchisees need to succeed in your franchise? That's a great question, Simon.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I think generally any franchisee needs to have that self-motivation and drive to build a business, because they are given an exclusive territory, and you want to find the right people that are going to utilize that. But I think for us, an important comment to make is, because we are preschool and it's very much a fun dance class, we're not teaching technique or posture or alignment or anything that they do in the older classes. we don't have to find qualified dance teachers. I've worked with a lot of amazing dance teachers in the past and professional dancers, and it's just not been the right fit for them. We find people who are really passionate about this age group, have got a really silly, if you've seen any of our social media channels, you'll realize that, full of fun nature, because actually teaching this age group is a really totally different ball game. We're looking for people that can really engage and be on a level with under fives. You've got to have that energy and that enthusiasm and that passion for getting children moving, not the technical aspect of, oh, do we teach this and we teach this. We finish at the age of 5. We instill that love of movement from their first experience. And if they then go on and continue dancing at an older age with a dance school, which has the qualified teachers when they go into the technical elements, brilliant. But otherwise, it is just instilling that love of being physically active, passionate about moving. That is what we look for, really.
Oh, that's amazing, and it comes across in everything you do. It certainly comes across in the times that I've been very fortunate enough to meet you. So
Yeah.
it's lovely to hear that passion, and I'm sure it comes across. So what a wonderful answer to that question.
Thank you.
I had a question. I mean, you perhaps answered it. It was, what steps did you take to build your franchise system? Did you go along the same lines of asking some advice to build that sort of that system around the franchise, the support structure?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think back in the day, there wasn't the readily available information on the web that there is now, and there definitely wasn't the amazingly supportive franchise sector like there is now either. So it was very insular. There wasn't a lot that you could find out in Google, and so finding the expert was really essential for me. I trained as a professional dancer. I danced all my life. I didn't have a business degree or an economics degree. I didn't have any finance experience. It's probably very obvious now, but it was all about finding somebody who did, so that they could not only help me upskill myself and learn more, but also ensure that I was doing it the right way. I am, like you said on the introduction, so passionate about ethical franchising. You know, I volunteer for many different associations. I'm a regional London chair for EWIF, and I'm really passionate about people ensuring that they get into franchising ethically. So the consultant made sure, Clive made sure, that I was doing my disclosure pack, doing my franchise prospectus, all of my manuals were really done correctly. He also gave me a good stern talking to about recruitment, and please don't let your ego get in the way and just take on anybody. This is a 5-year agreement.
Mm,
Make sure it's a
mm,
partnership. You know, they have to work with you for 5 years, but you've got to work with them for 5 years.
yeah.
And so all of those steps, I feel he really guided and nurtured me on, so that I did it correctly. I didn't rush anything either. I mean, I did pilot franchising first. So that was in 2006. He said, look, let's test it. Let's test it out of London. We did that first. I then did fall pregnant with my first child, so that there was quite a delay, but we didn't then go into full franchise until 2010. And that was when I really felt I had everything in place. I felt really confident, not just about the brand as a franchise, but about me as a franchisor and what support and time I could give to franchisees in the network. And
Mm.
so I think without that expert help, I just wouldn't have been able to follow the steps in the right way, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does, and what a great answer to that question, and it just shows that you grew a strong foundation, and despite your obvious enthusiasm, you made sure that you remained grounded and made sure that you had things in place, and then that enthusiasm can come through with, you know, the wonderful things you do, but with a strong a brand behind it. So that's great. In case anyone has just joined us, we are talking with the lovely Anne-Marie Martin from Diddi Dance. So get your dancing shoes on.
We'll
um,
talk later.
yeah. And if you would like to catch the replay of this episode, then please scan the QR code that is on the screen now, and you can hear the full episode. A question that I wanted to ask you was, I suppose, who do you want in your franchise network? Is what type of people, what type of characters? I mean, you touched on before, they don't have to be necessarily experts in dance. Is it just that passion, I suppose, that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they need to have a certain level of coordination. So we do ask them to sort of go along to their local class and join in. If you have got two left feet, it's probably not the best example to be setting in front of a room of grown-ups and their small children, but it really
Hence
is
the reason I'm not a franchisee.
all these
I've got 3 left. Absolutely.
I do think for this age group, you've just got to be passionate and on a level for moving to music with this age group. And it's so hard to hear so many people leaving the teaching profession, because I know people get into any work they do with children because of the passion, because it's definitely not for the money half the time, but it's passion. Anybody who works with children should love what they do. So that is definitely something we look for. But as I said before, you've also got to have an extra level of self-motivation and drive, because we're very honest on our discovery days. It's, running a business is not just a, hey, I've opened Diddi Dance and everything will fall into place. Your grassroots level is a lot of work, but because you're joining a franchise brand, it's so much better than trying to go it alone, because of all that extra support and background work that has been done for you. So drive and motivation are key, but you can't take yourself too seriously. You've got to be full of fun.
Oh, definitely. And again, a great answer to that. I think another question that I'd love to ask you. I mean, you mentioned there that you had 40 franchisees, they went all over the country. You've got quite a varied experience. You must have met some real characters and seen some real life-changing stories across that time. Are there any characters or stories that really come to your mind?
We've had so many amazing franchisees and still do. And really hearing about their stories. So we always try and ask them what their why is. What is their motivation? Why do you want to buy into a franchise now? And some of the stories, obviously, like everybody says in franchising, finding that flexible work-life balance is key for lots of people. But one of our franchisees, her son was heavily supported through Cordwell Children for equipment for him, for his additional needs. And for her, it really was, she needed something flexible because her son's needs changed daily, hourly. She needed something flexibly that she could work around her family life. That's been amazing. One of our franchisees, she had inquired about the brand a couple of times, but, was quite, I'm happy, I've got a secure job. And then she had a life-changing moment. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was her moment of, life's too short. I need to do something for myself. And this is what she chose. So we have some hilarious, we have some motivated, we have some full of fun characters in the network. I mean, if you're going to sign up to a brand with me, that's sort of what we look for as well. It's very much, you've got to decide that you feel for the brand, but get a rapport with the franchisor that you're going to sign up to as well. But yeah, we've had, and we've got some amazing franchisees across the network for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that story there that you said, about that flexibility and how you supported that franchisee with that flexibility, because it's you've got to find that balance, and that might be your why. I'm going to put that one back up briefly, but that might be your why. Your why might be that you want that different work-life balance, and it's so important for some people. That story powerfully demonstrates how important that is. How did you support that? I mean, it brings me on to a question about how you support your franchisees anyway. But in that particular story where someone needed that flexibility and that perhaps a little bit of special care and attention, how did you support during that time, and how do you support your franchisees going forward?
Well, the model that we have is a very flexible one. I think lots of children's activities are a really great low cost, flexible option, especially for parents. And so you pick the hours you want to work because you're picking the classes, and the ideal classes times are for other parents. So most of our classes are Monday to Friday between the hours of sort of 9:30 and 3. So if you've got older children at school, it's flexible. You can still do every school drop off, every school pickup, even if you were teaching 3 classes a day, 5 days a week. But it also gives you the flexibility to bring on teachers. We have a full teacher training manual and support, and you can really grow your territory into what is known as a management franchise territory. So you have the scope to go as big as you want, but you also have that scope. We're not, you must be achieving this and must be achieving that. We're not that type of brand. We appreciate what people come into the brand for, and we support them in that. So all of the initial training on every aspect of the business, not just teaching the classes, but our ongoing support. And it's not just from myself and the head office team, who are brilliant. It's about the peer-to-peer support within the network as well. So all of the local regions, they're all very supportive of each other. The national forum that we have, the monthly webinars with guest speakers, and anything that crops up of, oh gosh, right, this has happened, or this has changed in the statutory framework, or anything that is relative to the business, we try and address it straight away. We are on it, and we'll get a monthly Zoom on it. We also have our annual conference where generally we just all get together for the day and make TikToks. No, there is more to it, but we really try and it's a great day, but it's about team building and really bringing even more of that support into the network, so that it's not just hearing from me all the time. They're all like, oh, all right, Anne-Marie goes again. It is, oh, this franchisee told me that, and oh, look at what that franchisee is doing. That's inspirational. I'd like to do that. So it definitely about a full level of support for everyone involved.
That's fantastic. I'm going to bring up a comment here by Tim, because it brings me on to something. Tim's put, you began Diddi Dance at a time where there were not many children's activity brands. How do you react to the significant number of brands in this space to ensure franchisees continue to grow, and importantly, the brand continues to grow? I want to touch on something I witnessed myself. So I don't know if anybody was at the, don't worry.
I don't know if that.
When I was at the International Franchise Exhibition, there was a section just for the children's brands. And Anne-Marie, you led the promotion of all of those brands within that space. You work together, and you're clearly someone who supports and works with, and the other brands that operate in a similar space.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. When you start something and you build something and you're like, brilliant, I've nailed it, this is going great, and then somebody else enters that space similar to what you do, that there's panic. It's human nature. But it's always that same message: stay in your lane, and focus on what you do. And that is what we've really tried to do. We emphasize the fact of how long we've been going. We emphasize the fact of all of our continual learning and developing. Myself and the head office team have spent a lot of time extra training, CPD work into child psychology, developing neural pathways, all about our vestibular proprioceptive systems and how dance and movement is intrinsic to that child development. we do a lot of that and we shout about that. But also, when you mention collaboration, I really do think it's key. And I think if there's something positive we can take away from the pandemic, it is how our sector really came together to support each other. So those of you in the sector will appreciate and remember, the guidance wasn't clear. You'd got childcare setting, you'd got out of school clubs, you've got in school guidance, you had got performing arts and dance guidance. And we were really trying to bring all that guidance together to try and make head or tail of it. And that's where I decided to go onto the board of the Children's Activities Association as well, because I really did want to help the sector as a whole. And I'm still a board member with them now. And I volunteered all my time during lockdown to work with amazing other franchisors and activity providers to hone in this guidance and a child psychologist. But I think our collaboration as a network, it's such a great sector. We really do all support each other, regardless of what activity we provide. And it's just something that you can't stop these things from happening. So why not embrace them, focus on what you do and the best things that you do, and just do more of it. And another great thing in lockdown was we did start a TikTok account, and it's been an amazing platform for us. We've got a nice big following on there. And if nothing else, at every exhibition I go to or event, as Tim will tell you, I am there bringing people together to put smiles on their faces by dancing in a silly TikTok. But the smiles you get from it is brilliant. And that really comes down to our ethos of how dance can make you feel. It's just amazing.
Oh, that's exactly. And I think you couldn't have put it more powerfully than that. Fantastic question. Thank you. Just in case you have just joined us, we are starting to come towards the end, but we are talking with Anne-Marie Martin of Diddi Dance. And I want to mention, because Samantha Acton is on the screen right now, and she's put, Anne-Marie, you are incredible. It's a privilege to know you. Anne-Marie is our wonderful guest next week. So we're going to hear all about Domestic Angels. Please scan the QR code that is on the screen now, and you can register for that event. Before we get into chapter 3, a question I had for you was, in fact, I've got to ask you this first. I'm going to ask you this question. What was Bryan Adams like? I'm going to ask some serious questions, but I want to know.
No, and it's a great one. I'm surprised I don't talk about it all the time. I was lucky enough to work with some amazing artists on pop videos and tours, and I also did a great pop video for Ash and got to do Top of the Pops with them and Smash It Pole Winners Party and loads of different things. But the video I did with Bryan Adams it went to #1. It was the song Don't Give Up with Chicane. And so there was a group of us, we were all a bit sort of zombie-like moving things, and it was about breaking free and not giving up. But I've got to tell you, he is quite possibly one of the most loveliest artists I've ever had the privilege of meeting. There was only a handful of us involved in the shoot, and it was a really cold venue. It was these shoots are really long days. But he was there, and he could have quite easily shot his bits and gone and shut himself away. But he didn't. He was sat with everyone. And I actually got to spend some really quality time with him. He was just starting his photography at the time. He was telling me all about his photography and the shoots. And he was really passionate about it. But he really took the time to sort of chat to me as well. Some lowly little 20-year-old dancer. He's just absolutely lovely. Lovely.
Oh, that's lovely. And so nice as well that the song was about not giving up as well, because that's quite an inspirational thing when you're launching a business or you're a franchisee or you're a franchisor. It does take, you do need to keep persevering. So perhaps think of Bryan Adams.
That might have been my subconscious psyche as to why I started. Who knows?
Absolutely. I'm going to finish with a question. Do you discuss exit strategies, and how do you discuss growth with your franchisees? You know, they're starting at the beginning of a journey there, but that journey has a lifespan, and you know, understanding that lifespan is part of a good relationship. Is that something that you talk about right at the beginning?
It's something that we definitely mention early on in their training, because I think for any franchisee, you want them to understand that they're building an asset, not a job. This is something that they can grow and build, and whenever they are then ready to exit, they've really going to see the rewards for putting all of that effort in when they come to sell. And some of them have brought on brilliant teachers, and so we've had really good transitions in the resales that have ended up being sold to one of their teachers. We've had, I think it is really important when you run a lifestyle brand as well, because when somebody is fitting it around their lifestyle, that life can affect their business. And so you have to talk them through that as to what they can do. You know, pandemic definitely taught us that, and how do we navigate this together. I learned just as much from our franchisees as hopefully they did from me, but it was definitely about, let's navigate this together and let's continue to grow so that we can still continue to grow that asset, so that when you are ready to exit, you've got the proof is in the pudding, the figures are there, and you are going to be rewarded for all those years. Having said that, you know, we've got a couple of our pilot franchisees are still with us all these years later. Many of the franchisees 10 plus years now. It's just something that I think, because I still teach as well, you know, at my late 40s, about to turn 50 next year, I'm still teaching just because it's something I'm passionate about, something I'm good at, and I try and play to my strengths. Admin and figures, definitely not that. So I don't know whether by leading by example, people are like, great, well, Anne-Marie still does it. You know, this is something I still enjoy. I want to keep going 10 plus years, but everybody's different as well. So a very long-winded answer there. I could have just said, yes, we do talk about it.
No, I like a long-winded answer, and that's fantastic. And I think it's absolutely because you're a big part of the business, and you know, you can step back from a business, or you can stay in a business, and you can stay in a business in different ways. But to continue to be so wonderfully active, I think definitely does give encouragement to people. They see you, they hear your story, and they see what you do, and I think it really gives that longevity to a brand.
Yeah.
Look, it's been fantastic talking to you today. It's been another incredible story and a conversation I'm really enjoying. So we're going to go now to chapter 3. So we're going to go back to the future. So this is now the time where we want to talk about some of the exciting things that you've got planned, you know, some of the changes that might happen, and you know, what's happening in the coming months and coming years. And also, if you could let people know the best way to get hold of you. And very conveniently, if you read the ticker at the bottom at the moment, it's telling you to scan the QR code. So while Anne-Marie explains all the exciting stuff coming up, please scan the QR code to find out more about her wonderful franchise business.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Well, as I say, in the past year, we launched our baby program. So the franchisees now have, at no extra cost, the opportunity, the revenue to bring in from around 4 to 6 months all the way up to 5 years. So that is a significant thing that has taken us a couple of years to really work with experts on and deliver. And that is still something that we are pushing across the network. We already invested a heavy amount into our own CRM and booking system. So we have our own bespoke tech side onto the website anyway. Our development for the future is really just growing the brand. We cover Sunderland to Plymouth, but that's not enough for me. I would like even more children to be having a really positive first impression of a dance class. So I really want to expand across the UK as much as possible. We have had a few discussions overseas as well. International would be great because dance is a universal language and it is prominent in cultures all over the world. That's why we appreciate and explore dance styles from all over the world, but there are even more. And some of the franchisees that we have in the network now, we are working with them to develop more dance styles from their cultural backgrounds. But also, I've been working with the International Early Years Curriculum as well about working together to really help launch the importance of dance in early years across the globe, and to build that Diddi Dance brand as a really recognizable family brand as well. Some of the collaborations we've had with DreamWorks in LA and big TV shows, Sony Music, these are things that have really got us into the family space even more. I'd love to explore and do even more of that, and just keep on top of everything as much as I can at my age to make sure that the franchisees are really achieving the potential that they can.
Oh, that's fantastic. A great way to end. Again, I wanted to thank you so much for your time today to share your brand story. It's been a really good one. I've had a lot of fun hearing it and talking to you. And I know you, and your character is absolutely coming across here, and it's wonderful to see. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. So we are now drawing to a conclusion. Next week on Franchising Brand Stories, we have the wonderful Samantha Acton from Domestic Angels, and we're going to hear all about her franchising brand story and get to hear what's under the hat. I'm going to start doing that now. It's going to be a thing. And also don't forget to join us on the franchise show, which is every Tuesday, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. Next week we have Alicia Miller, who's written that book, and we're going to be discussing private equity in franchising. So that's going to be a fantastic one. Join us for that. Next Thursday is going to be an amazing one. Do join us for that, both 5:15. And join me in thanking the wonderful Anne-Marie for her time and sharing her story today. And of course, I would like to thank all of you as well for being here. You are wonderful and you make this show what it is. So until next time, take good care, my friends, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.